Welcome, everyone. In today's dynamic and rapidly evolving work landscape, the concept of a widespread workforce has become more prevalent than ever before. As businesses expand across borders, embrace remote work arrangements, and rely on virtual teams, they encounter the challenge of ensuring the continuous learning and development of their diverse employees. To meet this challenge, organizations need to design comprehensive learning strategies that cater to the unique needs and preferences of their geographically dispersed workforce. To shed more light on this, we are delighted to be joined by Sushil Baveja, Chief Human Resource Officer, Jiddal Stainless. With an illustrious career spanning decades in HR leadership, Sushil brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to shed light on the critical aspect of nurturing talent and fostering growth in a diverse and geographically dispersed workforce. Welcome, Sushil.
Thank you, Abhiksha. Thank you.
So, Sushil, I'd like to begin this interview by asking you, how can organizations design effective online learning programs that cater to the diverse needs and learning styles of their widespread workforce, ensuring engagement and also knowledge retention?
So, this entire process of design actually has to be a very meticulous process. Though I must say that, COVID has been, has actually taught us a lot about how to go about an effective, learning solution. But still, I would say that if we really talk about the design, I think the design has to be effective. It has to be, user friendly. We have to make sure that, the learning solutions that are being offered, they are accessible, on the go and anywhere. I think what is most important in a virtual learning situation or in an online learning situation is there's a fair amount of personalization, that is actually needed. We have to make sure that the programs that we offer online are personalized and customized as far as possible. Typically in classroom situations, we are used to giving, general programs, but in a online method, we should have that flexibility to personalize solutions which meet the unique, needs and requirement, which will make the whole learning process a lot more interesting. The other thing which makes a lot of sense, I would say, is the fact that in a virtual learning mode, particularly bite-sized learning is something which is more effective, particularly from an absorption and from a retention perspective. In a classroom situation, you can actually make sure that people are completely focused and taking interest. You can break in between, conduct icebreakers. But in an online learning situation, the program has to be designed in a manner that the absorption and the retention is high. So bite-sized learning solutions, bite-sized learning or micro-learning modules, as we say, they make a lot of sense. The other important element that we have to keep in mind in this whole thing is that, we should try to make sure that the learning process is also bringing in some level of interaction. If you're able to bring in interactive elements in the whole learning process, it makes, the whole process, the whole journey a lot interesting. So what is important is, we have to make sure that the learning solution, the learning design that is offered to make it more engaging and which can bring in better retention is that it is flexible. It is, kind of easily comprehensible. It is interesting. That is something which we have to keep in mind when we design programs for a diverse workforce, so to say.
Sure, so Shreil, so we talked about the kind of programs and policies, but technology do play a very important role in every aspect of HR these days. So how do we innovate such strategies, and how technology can help implement and promote continuous learning and upskilling among employees across demographies?
So, technology is the foundation for any effective learning to happen, particularly, in this entire hybrid way of working in particular is what I can say. And there are actually there is a huge amount of investment, that has happened in this learning space, particularly post-COVID, when most of the organizations, decided to go virtual. So there are some innovative solutions which have come in, which actually factor in elements of virtual reality. There are elements which factor in augmented reality training. Now, this actually makes the whole process a lot more interesting, and it makes the process a lot more immersive. I would say. On the innovation side, again, as I mentioned earlier, bite-sized learning is something which is more interesting, and which is more suited actually, or which actually draws greater attention, I would say, from the learning audience. And these bite-sized learnings or micro learning modules make it convenient for everyone to access the training thing. The other important thing, I would say, from an innovation standpoint and from a perspective of making the whole process interesting, is introducing gamification. Actually, if you are able to gamify the learning process, it makes the understanding a lot more simpler. It makes the understanding a lot more interesting, and it drives better engagement, and it drives better retention. And the other innovative thing, I would say, is that we must also make sure that this learning process is also done in a manner that there's a peer-to-peer kind of an interaction. We have to make sure that once somebody has delivered a program, we should actually put them into small breakout groups. We must create some small teams where people are able to exchange ideas and discuss how this entire learning can be applied in the workplace. So these are some of the things which I would say, in a way, qualify the innovation, in the innovation standpoint. And the other interesting thing, which also I would say would be innovative, is to introduce mobile learning apps as far as possible, so that the training modules are available on the go, or for that matter anywhere where the employee is, irrespective of the location, for that matter. And we must also not forget the fact that to make the whole process a lot more engaging and accepting, we must also put in place good reward and recognition program to appreciate people who actually invest extra time, energy in going through some of these learning courses. So this is something which I would say is innovative, that we have to look at as far as making the learning solution interesting and engaging is concerned.
Sure. So I think you've already touched upon a bit on how we are going to do the learning and upskilling agendas. How must they evolve in the future of work? But in the context of remote and hybrid work environments, how can companies foster a strong learning culture that encourages knowledge sharing, collaboration? You talked about peer-to-peer learning as well, but how could they gel very well and align together in different teams? Where they're sharing different time zones, and also if you all want to share something on the lines of how you actually go about calculating the ROI between all these things, because that is something which business looks forward to.
No, so sure, I agree with you. So so technology is a big game changer as far as creating a learning culture is concerned. But I would say that the real starting point is a strong commitment from the leadership, a strong commitment from the management to the fact that this is the new way of inculcating a learning culture. Gone are the days when we used to think that learning happens only in a classroom. So there has to be a strong commitment from the leadership. There has to be a strong message from the leadership or from the management to say that this is the way forward now. This is how learning is going to happen going forward. So that, I would say, is a starting point. And the other thing I would say is, in terms of creating that infrastructure of virtual learning, investing in learning management systems in the organization, because uh, today most of the organizations have gone with some very contemporary learning solutions. Even in our organization in General Stainless, like for instance, we have invested in Darwinbox, and we have a learning management system on the Darwinbox, which makes the learning process, a lot seamless and a lot simplified and interesting also is what I would say. So investing in some of these virtual learning platforms is something which is very, very important. The other thing I would say is that so when we talk about peer-to-peer learning, we must also actually create some kind of teams post learning sessions. So answering a question on ROI. So people who've been through a training program, they must actually come together to discuss the outcomes, the ideas that they've picked up, the insight that they've got from the programs, and they must be actually put on some cross-functional projects. They must be put on some action learning projects which actually matter to the organization, where this entire learning can be implemented. So this is one way of trying to check the ROI of these learning solutions, because when I have learned something, I go back to the workplace and try to implement that idea or that insight in the form of a project. I'm then also able to demonstrate that yes, I have internalized that learning, and I have also kind of made a difference. And there can always be a presentation which can be organized to the leadership team for their for their reference in terms of how the individual participants have grouped together, formed a project, and have impacted some of the business solutions and some of the business outcomes, so to say. So it's a mix of a whole lot of things, I would say. As I said, the first is we must have a strong buy-in, a strong commitment from the leadership. Second is there has to be an investment in some of the virtual solutions, in some of the learning management systems, so to say. And there are so many that are available today. We must make sure from an ROI perspective that people who've been through the training program, they form small groups, they form cross-functional teams, action learning projects, where they're able to implement some of their ideas and thoughts and demonstrate the kind of difference that they have made. So these are things is what I can think of right now.
Sure, Sushil. Last question to you is, with the growing emphasis on soft skills and emotional intelligence in the workplace, what approaches can organizations adopt to assess, develop, and nurture these skills in their diverse workforce, taking into account the varying cultural backgrounds and communication styles of the workforce?
So, this is again something which is very relevant to the hybrid work environment in which a lot of organizations have transitioned or they have migrated into. And, when we are working in a remote kind of a situation, what we all have realized as leaders is that it is extremely important for managers to actually build those soft skills or build that emotional quotient in terms of their ability to deal with the teams in a much more effective manner. And when I say effective, I mean, in terms of the managers being a lot more understanding, the managers being a lot more empathetic, they being a lot more compassionate. And I would say that more and more organizations have realized the fact that this is something which we have to build in the organization, where we are working in a hybrid mode, where people are dispersed, they are geographically spread all over the world, because that is something which helps you, build engagement with your teams. This is where, if you really want to drive discretionary efforts, you must engage with them, in a much more, in a much more understanding manner. So the first level, actually, the starting point is actually conducting, programs for the leaders and for the managers sensitizing them about the fact that the way forward is more in terms of getting a better understanding of the emotional quotient, how important it is actually to understand employees, to build connect, to build relationships, to stay much more objective, to stay compassionate and balanced. Once we train our managers, then they are actually in a better position to appreciate that particular behavior. And and these behaviors that we just spoke about, they actually are better understood by a remote workforce. We also have to in terms of reinforcing these behaviors, conduct some mentoring programs, have some coaching conversations, conduct a lot of workshops and programs, have some focus group discussions where this subject actually it comes into the forefront as part of a regular business discussion, so that it is taken a lot more seriously, and that sensitivity actually is built amongst managers to help them deal with the teams that are remotely located. And the other important thing, which I think I mentioned that earlier as well, institutionalizing such behaviors, which actually bring in greater compassion in the organization. We must have programs of of recognizing and appreciating the managers and the leaders. We must actually make sure that people who have demonstrated such behaviors are differentiated from the rest of the team members. We must also make sure that the fact that these behaviors are important, they form part of our regular performance conversations as well. Because when these behaviors become a part of conversations where people see that they are as good as any other performance outcome, it has a very different kind of an impact. But I've seen organizations gradually transitioning or migrating to these new set of behaviors.
Sure, those were some great points, Sushil. So thank you for your time today and for discussing the futuristic agendas over learning and skilling with us, and for also taking out time for this very insightful interview. Thank you so much.